This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Welcome, Torah Anytime viewers. Welcome, everybody else. Look at that. I switched it today. I don't know why. Probably because you threw me off with that question. Okay, tonight's class is sponsored by Erica and Sevi in honor and gratitude to Hashem for their healthy birth of a baby girl. May they have much nachas, and may they bring her into Torah, chuppah, u'masim tovim. Okay. Address, thank you very much. Okay, everybody is welcome to join us for our women's only class in Brooklyn, New York. What's the zip code? 11229. At the BJX at 1601 Quentin Road. Thank you. So you know that you don't nowadays all we do is just use Google Maps and you don't even know where anything, like, where do I live again? Where's my bathroom? Okay. So 1601 Quentin Road every Thursday at 8 p.m. But email me beforehand just to make sure that we're still on. Women only. I think I covered all the grounds. Okay, let's begin. And there is a spread of food that is presented each and every week, which is amazing. Thank you for whoever sponsored. This week is Erica and Zevi, and for the general sponsors throughout the weeks. Okay, so tonight. All right, thank you all for coming. And we'll continue next week. Tonight we're going to speak about a very, very important topic. A topic that actually comes up very often when people actually get into the heat of the argument of Judaism. When they actually get involved in it, what does it all boil down to? The rabbis. The rabbis made it up. The rabbis are the problem of everything. So tonight we're going to be dealing with something called the oral law. The oral law is a terrible, terrible interpretation of Torah Shabbat Peh because it's not just law. And in fact, when you deal with the oral law, it's not the oral law. It really should be the oral Torah, if you could think of it like that, or Torah by heart, if you want to, Torah Shabbat Peh. It's the Torah itself, even the actual written law. And we're gonna use this terminology just because it's the regular terminology that people use. You have the written law, which is the how many books do we have in the written law? Written law. How many books? 1. All right. What? 24. Thank you very much. 24. All right. What is this? Price is Right. All right. And you'll win this beautiful black chair. All right. You can take home with you. So there are 24 books. Let's go a little bit easier. How many books are in Chamishay Torah? Oh, very good. Excellent. How many books in Nevi'im? Just guess. 8. Oh, who said 8? Good job. Good job. Yeah. And how many books in Ketuvim?
13 minus 20.
Let's go. What is it? 11, very good. Okay, 11 books. Those are the books of the written law. So you're dealing with the Chamshei Torah. So you're dealing with Bereshis. Let's do it in English. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. And then you have other books. So you have things like Eov, Esther, Job is Eov. Why is it popping up twice? I don't know. You have Malachim, Joshua. All those. This is considered the written law, and the oral law. Does anybody know how many books are in the oral law? Infinite amount. We don't know how many. There's a tremendous amount that's written on it. But people usually think the oral law just depends on the Talmud. But really the oral law is a lot more than the Talmud. How many books are in the Talmud? We're not in a men's class, so it's fine if you don't know this. 63. Who said 63? Excellent job. Okay, you guys are on fire today. Wow. So you have that is the written law. The written law was let's speak about the oral law because that's what we're dealing with today. The oral law, the first time that the oral law is written was in the year 188 Common Era. That's where the Mishnah by Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi was written down. We're going to go through the history. One of the classes that I want to do, B'ezrat Hashem, hopefully next week we'll go through the history of the oral law. But it started off in 188 Common Era. Being that we're asking questions. How many years ago was that? Roughly speaking. 1,800 years ago? Who said 1,800 years ago? Wow, you guys are good today. Okay. Multiple personality order, right? This order today. Okay, so you have about 1,800 years ago was the first time that the oral law was written down. Roughly a little bit over 300 years later, the year 500 Common Era, is where you have the Gemara, the Talmud, was written down. Now, don't get confused and do not think when we're dealing with the 613 very good, commandments, mitzvos. The 613 mitzvos, they are where? Are they, I'll give you 3 options. Are they A, in the 5 books of Moses? Are they in all the written law, or are they split up amongst the 5 books of Moses, the written law and the oral law? You just say all of above. Or D, none of the above. All right? Different religion. You're in the wrong place. All right, down the hall in the nail salon. All right. So the answer is that all the 613 commandments are written in the Chamishay Torah, in the 5 books of Moses. Don't think that there are 300 here and then the oral Torah, the oral law brought in the rest of it. No. All 613 commandments are in the written Torah. Now, who are the biggest people that they claim the invalidity of the oral Torah? Number one is you have the Christians, right? On the top of the number one, or most, I don't know. I know there's a game show doing that, but I don't know what it's called now. Number one, we have Christianity. Number 2, we have a group called the Karaites. Number 3, we have Jews that are heretics. And it's right. Tzedokim, you can include them also, depending on where and what they're actually holding, which possibly we'll deal with them later. So when you look at it like this, there are groups of people that claim the oral law, nonsense, gibberish made up by the rabbis, has nothing to do with Judaism. It's completely false, and we cannot listen to it. Now, what's very interesting is, what do you think came first, the oral law or the written law? The truth is, very good. It's first started. First of all, it's not. It's one. It's like an explanation to it. The written is written down. The oral explains the written. But in essence, it's really one. But it first came just orally. When we heard the Torah from God, when we heard the commandments from God, and when Moses came down by the Torah, that was all orally. When was it written down? 40 years after we got the Torah, when Moses was about to die, when Moshe Rabbeinu was about to die, he wrote down the Torah. So until then, it was all oral. Everything was oral, and only then it was written down. When people go and they claim, let's speak about messianic cult rabbis, messianic leaders. They are odd people, very, very odd people. Why are they odd people? Because they claim something. What do they claim? They claim that the oral law, like we said, is fake, is made up. The written law, that's true. But let's look at their practice. What do they actually do? And there's something very fascinating when you actually look at their practice. What they do, let's give a few examples. They make kiddush on Shabbat, oral law. They light the Hanukkah candles, also oral. They make a bracha on bread, also oral. So it's interesting. They say the oral is made up, it's fake, but yet they practice the oral. Now let's look at what's the written Torah. The written Torah says keep Shabbat, keep Nidah, don't wear shatnez. They don't keep that. So they claim, now bear with me for a second, because, it's really not that complicated. They claim the oral law, made up, fake, but that's what they do. They claim the written law, true, but they don't listen to that. Can you explain that to me, please? They is the Christians, Messianic Jews. They're not really Jews, most of them. Most of them are just Messianic, most of them are just Christians. The way that Messianic Judaism came out is that they wanted to incorporate a lot of Jews into Christianity. So what they did was they tried to make it a little bit more Jewy, so put a little bit more of Jewish stuff. But what happened was a majority of their followers are really just Christian who wanted to do a little more Jewy stuff. Because, after all, this is where it all stems from. This is where it all comes from. So this is where their bulk of thing. But they actually, unfortunately, they do get, Jews into their cult. So, but when you think about it, it's very interesting. They claim that it's false, but they listen to that. What they claim that it's true, they don't listen to it. So you're a hypocrite. What is it? If it's false, then why are you following it? Why are you following it? I don't understand. If you're claiming that it's false, it doesn't make any sense. I've had people that have had this conversation. This is the way that the conversation goes. I'll teach you one of my tricks. So I'm having an argument, a talk, whatever, a sit down with somebody who claims not to believe Judaism, and generally it could go in different areas, different venues, but it more or less very often falls into this kind of category. Do you believe in the written Torah? Yeah, the written Torah I believe in. That's true. So the oral Torah, the rabbis, that's where you have the problem. I'm like, okay, fine. I'll give that to you. Do you keep the written Torah? And they're like, oh yeah, of course, the written Torah I keep. I'm like, cool. Do you keep the 10 Commandments? I'm like, 10 Commandments, of course. My next question usually is, do you know the 10 Commandments? I know it's like, do not murder, do not sleep with your friend's wife, do not curse God, and they get like a handful of them. They usually forget about, a bunch of them. I say, and then I go specifically, do you know number 4? The first 5, right? Did you know the first 5? Number 4, do you know what number 4 is? Number 4 is that you have to keep Shabbat. Do you keep Shabbat? What do they usually, well, I don't usually work on Shabbat. I'm like, that doesn't answer my question. Do you keep Shabbat? And the answer is no. So I'm like, you are telling yourself that you keep the written law. You don't even keep the 10 Commandments. You don't even keep the 10 Commandments. You're convincing yourself that you keep the written law. Are you kidding me? So people claim a lot of things, just like these Christians. They claim that they listen to something, but they don't know. No, the truth is it's a lack of knowledge or just ignorant, whatever it is. They claim something, but they actually don't follow it. They don't know anything. There are many people. You have to learn how to read people. This is very important in life because and no matter where you are in life, even if you're a stay-at-home mom or a stay-at-home dad, you still have to learn how to read people because people could scam you. There are some people that you should be able to know right away. They know nothing. Like sometimes I sit down with people and I have to talk with them. The first 5 words that come out of their mouth, I'm like, this guy is ignorant, doesn't know what 1 plus 2 is. If I say A plus B equals C, he's not going to know what, they're literally like nothing. And some of these people, they present themselves with a tremendous amount of confidence. And they sell them. So a lot of people, they'll fall for it, and they'll think it. You have to go and you have to realize how to read people. There's some people that they claim, and who is the worst? What is it the worst? The worst is when you're fooling yourself. The worst is when you claim, I'm following the written Torah, I'm a good person. Deep inside, deep inside. Like if you go really, 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 like I'm talking about deep inside, I'm like a really good person. And I'm like, that's very nice to hear, Pablo Escobar. I'm sure that you are really, really deep inside. But what are you really does nobody know, and people know here what Pablo Escobar is? Okay. He's not a rabbi, I'll tell you that much. Okay. So, let's go. The focus of today is to prove that the oral law must exist. Now let me repeat that. It must exist. Afterwards, we're going to go and we're going to answer our different questions in the following classes, Be'ezrat Hashem. But the first and foremost, we have to prove that it does and must exist. You okay? And scene. All right. So, okay, I'll go with the theme of the day. Okay. There are something called cities of refuge. Yireh miklat. You know what that is? Anybody familiar with that? If let's say you accidentally murder somebody in the biblical times, then you would run to 6 cities. And the 6 cities, one of them, 3 of them are the east side of the Jordan, 3 of them are in the land of Israel. If you get there in time, then you cannot be avenged by the relative of the person that was accidentally murdered. If you don't understand that, we're not going to get into it because it's just, we don't have the time to go and delve into it. But the idea is that this law is only applicable during biblical times. The oral law, was brought into writing after biblical times. So what we're going to show now is that in Makot, there is a Mishnah that speaks about the city of refuge, which means is that the oral law is writing down something that is not even applicable nowadays. It's applicable in the biblical times. Why are they writing it down? Must be that this already existed during biblical times, and that's why they're writing it down. So we see over here something very, very important, that people will say, the oral law, the rabbis made it up. But we have proof that the oral law was already existing before the rabbis made it up. Can you say the rabbis made it up beforehand? Yeah, you can, and we'll deal with that soon. But right here we're showing that the oral law was not made up right when the rabbis wrote it down, because it already existed beforehand, because we have documented proof. Why would you write a law that is no longer applicable? It makes absolutely no sense. You think about the Mikvah. The Mikvah, we spoke about 2 weeks ago, the masada, right? You guys remember masada? So in masada they found a mikvah. The story of masada happened before. You're talking about over 200 years before the oral law was even written down. In masada they found the mikvah to the specification of the oral law, which means is the oral law must have existed by the time of masada. And that was already beforehand. You're talking about 250 years prior to the writing of the Mishnah. Now, that is, and by the way, how many verses do we have about Mikvah in the Torah? We have one verse in Vayikra, Leviticus chapter 11, verse 36. That is one thing. Let's put that on the side. Let's speak about a different proof right now. We're dealing with something called the Hebrew orthography. There is something called nikudot. Nikudot is think of it as diacritical symbols to understand, vowelizations of the words. So, who here knows what nikudot are? Put your hands down. Who here does not know what nikudot are? Okay. Who here is too embarrassed to raise your hand? Okay. Who here does not have hands? Okay. So, think of it this. Let me explain it this way. There are vowels. Who here knows the vowels? Okay, that's it. Okay. Who here wants to buy a vowel? Okay. Let's say you take A. What sound does A make? What sound does E? Right, depends where you come from, that's true. What sound does E make? Well, I guess also depends where you come from. So, A and E makes the same sound for you? So you have, right. Every vowel makes their own specific sound. Granted, where you come from, it depends, it varies, that's true. In the Hebrew alphabet, the aleph doesn't make the same sound all the time. It depends what nikudot, what vowel, what the I guess we call vowels that you have under it. A could be a kamatz, it could be a segol, it could be a patach. So an aleph could be a, e, u, eh. It could be so many different vowelizations depending on what it's under it. Now, if you ever looked inside a torah that is written by a scribe, the kosher Torah, there's no vowels inside of there. Which means is that you needed to know how to read the word before, orally. There had to be some sort of tradition in order to know how to read the word. And I'll give you the proof. So there is something, here, if whoever knows Hebrew, you can help me out over here. Chet lamet bet. What does that spell? Who said what? Chalav. Very good. Anybody think it spells anything else? Chelev. Excellent. Very good. So when it says in the Torah, in Exodus, in Exodus chapter 23, verse 18, it says over here, you should not leave over chet lamed bet. So you should not overnight. What you should not leave overnight? Well, we have two options over here all of a sudden. We have your chalav, which means milk. You should not leave milk overnight. Great idea, right? Not a good idea, right? You should not leave milk overnight, or it can mean chelev, which is fats. You should not leave fats overnight. Now this has halachic implications. What does it mean? Now if there is the words are spelled exactly the same. The pronunciation is different depending on the nikudot that they have. And the Torah doesn't have a nikudot, so how do we know how to read it? Must be there is a tradition, there is an oral law that tells you this is how you read this particular word. This word is really written as, it's really pronounced as chelev and fats, and not chalav and not as milk. You have another example that Rabbi Mordechai Becher brings in Exodus chapter 34, verse 23. It says, Shalosh pamim bashana, 3 times a year, yirah. Well, let me not, spoiler alert. Okay. It says, Yud Resh Aleph Hey. Now I'm not going to ask you what this spells out, but I'll give you 4 options. And these are all 4 accurate options. It can mean number 1. It can mean yirah, he shall fear. So 3 times a year, you shall fear. Or option number 2, yireh, he shall see. So 3 times a year, you shall see. Or number 3, yarah, he shall show. 3 times of the year, he shall show. Or 4, yehra'eh, 3 times a year, he shall appear. Now this is dealing with a verse in the Torah that has halachic implications. What does it mean? Does it mean he shall show, he shall fear, he shall appear? What does it mean? In order to understand it, in order to know how to read the Torah, there has to be an oral tradition. There has to be an oral law. It is impossible to read it otherwise. Which means, and by the way, you should know only between the 5th and the 7th century Common Era is when the vowelization started being written down. Beforehand, it was just everybody just knew how to read it because they knew it because based off the oral law. Furthermore, there is no commas, there's no periods in the Torah. If you actually look inside the Torah, it doesn't say there's no commas, there's no periods. You have to know how to stop. You have to know how to stop. You have to know when to start. Think of it this way. I'll give you a few sentences, and I'll show you the difference when there is a comma and when there's no comma, to how much the sentence changes the meaning to it. Sentence number 1. If I come to you and I say, let's eat grandpa, what would you think? Assuming that you have some association with cannibalism, we are going to be eating, grandpa. But let's say I would say, let's eat, grandpa. What does that mean? I'm talking to grandpa all of a sudden. Grandpa, let's eat. You see how just one comma makes it completely different? This is a real sign. This is a sign that was put up in front of the loo. Anybody know what the loo means? Right? The bathroom, the John. I guess it's over there it's loo and over here it's John. I don't know. It's interesting. It says like this. The sign says in front of the toilet. It says, toilet only for disabled, elderly, pregnant children. This is a very privileged toilet, right? This is a very, very small group that they're marketing over here. You have to be disabled, elderly, pregnant, and a child at the same time. Then please, bechavod, you can use a toilet. Or, that's one way to read it. Or, let's add some commas. Toilet only for disabled, comma, elderly, comma, pregnant, comma, children, comma. Then it makes a big difference. This was a sentence that was produced to two different focus groups. One completely men, one completely woman, and they said put the commas in the places that you need. The sentence is like this: a woman without her man is nothing. That is a sentence. The men took the commas and they wrote it like this: a woman without her man, comma, is nothing. Woman put the commas a little bit differently. Woman said a woman, comma, without her, comma, man is nothing.
Nice.
Here you have two exact same sentences that mean completely two different things. You see how important the punctuation is? And see how important we're not even dealing with vowelization. There's another sign that says slow kids at play. What would you think? There are slow kids at play. Thank you for the information and continue driving. Or you could say slow kids at play. There's another. This was a PowerPoint presentation that was the average American consumes more than 400 Africans. The average American consumes more than 400 Africans, which again, if you're in the same grandpa cannibalism group, you would be like, all right, cool, it sounds good. If you think about it, first of all, it's so true. Whatever, it doesn't matter, cannibalism or not. Like the average American, for sure, consumes more than 400 African. Even though it doesn't matter what you're talking about, electricity, food, tissue paper, insect, whatever it is, it's for sure, it's true. But it really depends where you're putting the comma. There were a group of people that were found swimming in a pool or in the ocean, whatever. Pick your, it's a story, doesn't matter. And it says there's a big sign. It says no swimming allowed. And the lifeguard comes in and be like, I don't understand how you guys swimming here. It says the sign over here. Don't you read the sign? It says no swimming allowed. So they say no. We read it differently. We said no! Exclamation point. Swimming allowed. So we swam. There's a guy that got pulled over by a cop, and he says, you did an illegal U-turn. And the guy says, what can I tell you, officer? He says, I did not want to make the U-turn. And for streets and streets, it says, no, U-turn. No, U-turn. No, U-turn. I'm like, well, after a certain amount of time, I saw so many signs that tell me to turn. I had to turn. So it really depends how you read it. Maybe that's why they put the sign now and they don't write it anymore in words. But it really depends.
Well, the Africans, I could not figure that one out.
It's the average American consumes more food than 400. Yeah, I would assume so. Than 400. You ever see I don't know, back in the day, there was for 63 cents, you could support an African child, and save him from hunger, I don't know what 63 cents does in Africa. I mean, I understand inflation and different things, but what is it going to buy him? A banana? He needs more than 63 cents. A cup of coffee costs more than 63 cents. And then they show you a picture of a little African kid, he's bald, you see his ribs, and he has a fly on his face, lands on his eyeball, and you're just thinking over there, blink Jamal, blink for crying out loud. The average American, consumes more than 400. I don't know how we're getting to Africa. Okay, so, but if you want to hunt that is proof number 2. Proof number 2 is there is no way to learn the Torah without an oral tradition, without an oral law, which means there must be an oral law. There is no way out of it. There is another proof, this is proof number 3, that it's impossible to understand the written law without the oral law. We're going to bring some proofs for that. It says in Tehillim, in chapter 19, verse 8, Torah Hashem Tmima. The Torah is perfect. Now, perfect means that there's no ambiguity. You'll be able to understand it. You'll be able to, figure it out. It's perfect. But yeah, when we look at the Torah, if we just look at the written Torah, it's far from perfect. There has to be another piece to it in order to make it perfect. And let's look at Bamidbar, Numbers, chapter 29, verse 1. It says, regarding Rosh Hashanah, it says, Yom Tuah Yeh Lachem. It shall be a day of shofar sounding. Now, let's say, this is the beginning of time, right? You know what a shofar is? You don't know. Now you know what a shofar is because, what is a shofar? Maybe it's a trumpet. Maybe it's a harmonica. Maybe it's a guy that knows how to whistle with 2 fingers. Maybe, how do you know that a shofar on Rosh Hashanah you have to have from a certain animal, from a horn, like a ram's horn, and you have to go and you have to blow a certain amount. How do you know that? All it says in the Torah, that it's supposed to be a day of blowing for you. It's a day of shofar sounding for you. trumpet, trombone. I don't know. I think that's a thing that you blow into, right? You have you have a guy that knows how to whistle without anything, right? A Mexican, right? So you have a guy that doesn't want to go really, really, really loud, just with just his tongue. Maybe he could do a shofar sound. Can he go? And what makes it? How do we know that? How do you understand that? We don't. The only way to understand this is only if we have another explanation to it. In Exodus chapter 31, verse 14, it says that you're not allowed to work on Shabbat. Let me read you the pasuk. The pasuk says like this: "Ushamaltem et Shabbat." You have to guard the Shabbat, keep the Shabbat. Ki kodesh hilachem, because it is holy to you. Mechalelea, someone who desecrates it, mot yumat, will surely die. Mot yumat, by the way, is a double language of death. He shall surely die, which means die in this world and die in the next world. Ki kol ha'oseh bo melacha, because whoever does work on the day of Shabbat, v'necheta ha'nefesh ha'hi mikerav ha'mea, the soul is going to get cut off. Cut off is not a good sign, right? If you have a rich daddy and the daddy says you're cut off, you will do anything, to not get cut off. Imagine what it is if you do something so bad that you get up to heaven and you go like, "Hey daddy, hey God, what's going on? I'm here. I know I wasn't the guy." He's like, "No, I'm sorry. You're cut off. We have nothing to do with you." Like, no. What do you mean? Which means there are certain sins that cuts you off. You're done. You're finished. What is one example of that? If you desecrate, if you don't keep Shabbat. If you don't keep Shabbat, you're going to die, which means this world and the next world. You will get cut off. Now, the Torah doesn't say, it says if you do melacha, if you do work in it. But nowhere in the Torah says what melacha is. Imagine you go to a country, and the king over there, you stop by the customs and they say, "Listen, there are 400 laws in here. If you do any of them, it's a death penalty." So you're like, "Wow, that's crazy. You guys do death penalties still?" And they're like, "Yeah." And one of them is women are not allowed to drive. Whatever. And they say it's a death penalty, whatever, with these 400 laws. They're like, "Okay, what can I do? I'm here now. Can you tell me these 400 laws?" Nope. Go figure it out. Like, what? Well, you're telling me that it's a death sentence, but you're not telling me what it is. The Torah is telling you, if you don't keep Shabbat, it's a death sentence. But it doesn't tell you what does it mean, keep Shabbat, what does that mean, keep Shabbat? How does that make sense? Torah Hashem Temima, it's a perfect Torah. How can you say that the Torah is perfect when you have over here that says if you do melacha, what is melacha? Is melacha work? Work equals force times distance. Is that what work is? How do you know what work is? How do you know what you're supposed to do if the Torah doesn't tell you? Rather, there must be. It does not make any sense whatsoever that it does not have an explanation to the Torah. It has to be. How could you even begin to understand it? It says in Deuteronomy, chapter 12, verse 21. It says like this. It says, "You may slaughter your cattle, ka'asher tzivisicha, like I have commanded you." Which means you're able to eat animals, certain animals, and you have to do a specific type of slaughter. How do you do that slaughter? Like I have commanded you. Yet, the problem is that in all 24 books of Tanakh, there says nothing about how to slaughter an animal. But the Torah says, like I commanded you. What does it mean? You guys are with me? I can see, by the way, who has ADHD or ADD right away. It's very simple. So, you don't have to raise your hand. But it's, my Friday night classes. It's so when you walk into the place, you have to walk up a flight of stairs. So I'm speaking, and you hear a door open, and then I almost can't even speak for the next 30 seconds and it's like you have to lean over to see it. The door opens, the entire group is just like this. And and it's like it's not like the guy comes in, everybody's looking at him, right? Everybody's looking at him, and I'm repeating the same things 3 times around because I see no one's with it. But it's something so fascinating. But what's something also that's very fascinating is no matter whatever I hold in my hand, your eyes are going to follow this thing, right? It doesn't even mean anything, but your eyes are automatically attracted to it because I'm looking at it. I'll tell you something else. If it's on, there's light, forget about it. Your eyes are attracted. You make fun of flies. You know what fly traps are? Fly traps are because they're lights. You're like, what a stupid fly. Why are you going towards the light? Have you ever drove and there's an ambulance driving the road? Try not looking at that light. You're like, oh, come on. Why am I looking at the lights? What am I so attracted to the lights? The answer is it attracts attention.
So you're saying we're flies?
What? I'm saying I'm not saying we're fly. Yeah. Don't always go to the light is what I'm saying. Well, depends, I guess, on how old you are. I don't know. Okay, so, but very few people got that. Okay, so that was very morbid. All right, so, no, but it's very interesting. You know why? Because this is how marketers work. This is how people in the advertising business, this is how they work, especially in women's clothing. How do you know if there's certain women's clothing that they'll have letters in certain places? Now, why do you have letters? You know, a guy's gonna be like, no, I was just reading, your note on your, chest, and I'm just reading the information that is presented, Why do they have it? And not only that, they bedazzle it with grindstones. Rhinestones? They're bedazzled with shiny objects, right? I give up. Shiny things. Why? Because shiny things attract the eye. That's why you have somebody that wears hot pink. The eye attracts to it. Because it's something that sticks out and something that it attracts to it. So and it takes, and this is instinct. This is not like something. It's true, yeah. The neon colors, right? That's why some people have fish that are when I used to have a fish tank. I used to love having fish. Why? Because when you look at a fish tank, this is their world. This is the whole world. It gives you a really bigger picture of things. So if you have any other animal, it lives in the world that you live in as well. But you have other animals as well. But a fish, this is it. This is where and they have like a castle. They got the bubble making thing. The windmill going on over there. And they just swim around the same 30 inches for the whole life. And you're looking at that. It really makes you appreciate life. Let's say somebody lives in a 500 square foot studio apartment, and they're like, wow, I can't believe I'm such a. Buy a fish tank and look at what the fish have to deal with. The fish literally they're swimming all day. They're so bored they sleep with their eyes open. They're not. Well, that's not because they're so bored. Well, they have a very short memory span. That's because the movies tell you that. What is it? That goldfish have a 3-second memory span. Here. Somebody go and look it up. I don't want to do it right now. Look it up. See if it. I don't think it's true. I don't think goldfish have a 3-second memory span. Yeah, it does make sense because you think about that. That's like somebody like, oh wow, look at this tunnel. Oh wow, look at this tunnel. Oh wow, look at this tunnel. That's a great life to live.
It says 3 seconds.
It does say 3 seconds. The memory span of goldfish is 3 seconds. It's true. Oh, it's not true. I'm not talking about Finding Nemo, all right? All right.
Oh, no. The myth that fish have short memories have been debunked by research. 5 months.
5 months memory span. Look at that.
At least.
75 months. Oh, what a time.
You know why I think that? You know what made me think that? That when you have... Why are we speaking about fish tanks? I have no idea. Okay, but we're on it already, so we're going full force on this. If you have a fish tank, it's something very interesting that my uncle loves fish. Like he breathes fish. Like he has different fish tanks, he lives in Israel. So when I go visit him, he's like, come check out my fish that I have, over here. And he has this fish tank and this fish tank. And there's something very interesting that if you put your hand over there, they follow your hand. If they know that they're going to be fed, how do they know that if they have a 3-second memory span?
Attention span is short. Their memory span is long.
How do they even test this thing? How do they know these things? Hey fish, hey. Come on, focus. What do we have over here? Right? It's like, how do they even, do they attach little, Human attention span is 7 seconds long. 6 seconds long, depending on the human. Right? Americans, very low. Anywhere else out of the, the world, generally a little bit, longer. Why do I say 6-7 seconds? Because there was a company that made this program that had videos for 6 or 7 seconds. I think they're not longer anymore. They're the Vine. So you have the Vine. So they have. Am I not pronouncing it right? Just fine. So Vine has 6 seconds. And when I first heard about this, I'm like, 6 seconds? How could you my introduction to a class takes me 30 minutes. Like, how do you even start a full thing for 6-7 seconds? And the answer is that they did some sort of research, and this is the attention span that we're dealing with nowadays. And it's really crazy. It's very sad. Oh, it's very sad. It's very sad. Because you want to know how you know if you have a short attention span? Look how we got. We got from oral law to the goldfish to the fish to attention span. And we're going to speak about YouTube now. YouTube Rahman al-San, Chas v'Shalom. So when you get stuck in the web of the YouTube, you sort of get stuck there for, I don't know, 72 hours usually. You come out, like a man is like not shaven, is like starving, he's been starving for like what happened, but like I don't know, I just wanted to search some stuff how to do Excel, and I was watching how they built stuff in Cambodia. I don't know how I got there. I know how to fly a plane though. I think they have a 10-minute video, and I saw Kim Kardashian's house. So it's like you start over there, you go over there, you watch a 4-second video, and then they come in the suggested video, be like, you might be interested in monkeys, dancing with bananas. I will be interested in yes, and you click on the monkeys, dancing with bananas, and then you're watching the monkeys are whatever I said before, something with dancing with bananas, and all of a sudden you see like is the world really round? I don't know, is it? And you read it and you click it. And then you go, what's the deepest part of the ocean? I don't know, what's the deepest part of the ocean? Meanwhile, 7 hours go by, you don't know how if the world is round, because you only watch the first 4 seconds of it until you click something else, until you click something else, until you click something else, until you click something else. And what have you watched for the entire time? Advertisements, right? Ka-ching for, YouTube, Google, whatever it is. It's smart. I'm not saying it's not, it's smart, but we look at our attention spans. We look at, the idea, you have people that start listening to a shiur Torah. They're like, not interested. They say, public speaking 101. One of the things that you should do is start off with a joke. If you realize I don't do that, I say my jokes, I don't know, throughout the entire, time. Why do they say start off with the jokes? And it gets people interesting, so they will stay tuned in.
But you stop right after the joke.
Usually they space out after that. That's what they say. They say also, I think I heard this from our official Shachter. Official Shachter says like this. He says, a joke, you have to wait a year until you repeat it. A story, 6 months until you repeat it. If you're saying Dvar Torah, you can repeat it twice in the same class, no one's going to realize it. Because people don't even listen. People come over there and they go, and this is where it comes into also when people say that I speak very fast. Generally, I have yet to hear, I've never heard one person in class that told me I speak so fast. Where do they tell me I speak so fast? When they listen to it online. When you're in class, for some reason, it's not so. And I've spoken to like Russian people that barely speak any English. Like everything is like, And I'm like, afterwards, I'm like, you understood it? Like, yeah, perfectly fine. I'm like, this is like English is not even a second language. It's like the third language, right? They speak like English, Russian, Yiddish, and then it's like English, combination of all three of them into one. So. Where do people have a hard time following when I'm speaking very fast? When you're doing few other things at one time. You can listen to a Torah class online just by listening to it. Come on, no. You're playing, games, Snake, I know, I'm bad. Candy Crush, I know it's not anymore. It's not new anymore, right? What's the new game now? I need to know. There's no games now? There's no more Pokemon Go? Fortnite. Okay, so let's say you're playing Fortnite. Is this
Video games. We call it a video game.
Okay. Is this like building colonies and like selling cattle and something like that? Okay. Oh, it's fighting people. Yeah. It's going to produce harmony in the world. That's good. Yeah, it's always good when you have like 13-year-olds murdering people in cold blood with just like stabbing them. Oh, let's make it more realistic so you can see the veins pulsing out the blood. Good job, PlayStation. Be like, thank you. Hey, little Johnny, you want to learn how to be a sniper? Yeah. Why don't you go assassinate the president today? Okay, happy bar mitzvah, and this is what this is what we're like, why is it so violent nowadays? Why are so many people on drugs? Why are so many people depressed? I don't know, because maybe when they go into the fantasy world, they're driving a Ferrari while murdering people, and they have a bunch of girls that are sitting naked and, in their car at the same time. Anyways, right? Going back to the topic at hand, which is goldfish, right? That's what we're dealing with. Okay. Is goldfish kosher?
Yes. No. Yes. No.
Never ate goldfish. Good, Baruch Hashem. Okay. That is... okay. So, we got to live as a cliffhanger. I'm not going to tell you you eat your goldfish, or maybe you're not going to eat your goldfish.
Is it dirty to eat?
I don't know.
Oh, we don't know.
No, we do know. So, I'll tell you like this. It has to have fins and it has to have scales. Do you want... Whatever. Okay, let's move on. Okay. I have a recipe. Okay, never mind. So, I'm just kidding, I'm joking. Okay, so, where are we? Oh, okay, oral law, right? Oral law is, we're speaking about slaughtering animals, right? Slaughtering animals, it says in Deuteronomy, in the volume, chapter 12, verse 21, it says that you need to go and you slaughter it like I have commanded you. Meaning that I have commanded you this before, or somewhere else I have commanded you, and just go follow it. Yet we look in all the psukim, in all the 24 books of Tanakh, we don't find anything in how I commanded you. So what does this mean? It says over here in the Torah that you go and you ask this to the Christians, to the Gentiles. What does this mean? You're telling me over here that the Torah says the Torah is right, the written Torah is true. How do you explain this? They don't. There's no way to explain it other than the fact that there must be some oral law attached to it. It also says in Shmuel, chapter 14, verse 34, "V'shachatem bazeh." You should slaughter with this. What's this? What's this? It's just slaughter with this. As if, when you're saying, and you should take this, means that you know what I'm talking about. What are you talking about over here? It's talking about a slaughter knife. The Gemara in Chulin, page 17b, it says that it's referring to a knife that's properly checked for sharpness. We know when you have to slaughter an animal, the knife has to be checked between each slaughter. It can't have any nicks in it. It has to be very, very smooth. Why? Because this is less pain. Well, one of the reasons is because it's less painful for the animal. For all those animal lovers out there, and by the way, you should be, because it's Tsar Balachayim. It's not a bad thing to love animals. You should, because you're not allowed to go and you're not allowed to harm any animal. But the way that the Torah says, even though you're allowed to eat animals, but when you slaughter them, you have to slaughter them in the most humane way possible. Yeah.
Like a very common vegan argument to that is there is no humane way of slaughtering.
Yeah, so tell the lettuce eaters that there are also studies that lettuce and all the vegetables also have feelings, and also they have studies on that they attach them. So then, what do you say about that? You should not eat any. They should not eat anything. Yeah, granted, there's no humane way, but is there any humane way to destroy a plant? Who are you to destroy a plant? And in fact, when you're eating animals, you really are a vegetarian, because you're eating animals that just eat vegetables. So the animals are what they are. So you really, if you really put the circle in there, it's really,
I think also with Moshe Rabbeinu in the Evan, so it also shows that, okay, I know that there's a lot of unfortunate, but basically saying that even the Evan had feelings,
right.
Whatever, that he was fearful with something that's a domain. So, you're saying, everything can have feelings.
Everything does, and they have proven that. And I was thinking about actually putting this in my Torah and science class, but I didn't put it in because I needed a lot of graphs and charts, and I didn't have the time to do it. But they had done scientific research where they saw how things affect plants. How you speak to it affects your plant. If you go and if you curse at your plant, it's not going to come out the same as if you speak nicely to it. If you read Tehillim to it, then it's not going to be, it's going to be completely different. It grows healthier when it comes out to it. Well, they don't read two plants, but they've done a study. Israel done a study where one of them, they read Tehillim near a plant, and it grew much higher. And then they had another plant there was just a vulgar language and mean language and cursing and things like that.
That comes out of the mouth when you say the word.
Yeah, it could be whatever it is. And by the way, if I'm not mistaken, I think the Chassam Sofer says that it actually affects the rainwater. Though, if I'm not mistaken, if I remember correctly, that the way that you speak actually affects everything. It comes out into the world, it's a whole cycle. We're all interconnected to such an extent that we have absolutely no clue on actually how interconnected we actually are. To really, I can't even begin to even, explain to you everything that you do. It matters on a whole world scale. Even the quality of the water that comes down. So, when you're dealing, let's say, for example, circumcision. Circumcision is another proof. It says that you have to circumcise what? The oral, extra skin. Maybe it means this, the earlobe. Maybe it means right over here, some extra skin over here. Maybe it means fingernail. What makes you think that circumcision should be that? In fact, the last thing that any man would say it should be would be that. It doesn't say in the written Torah where you should cut, and yet everybody does it. Even the Reform, even the conservative that deny so much. They deny even the written Torah, for crying out loud. But yet, why do you circumcise over there? Who says it's like that? If maybe it's made up. Start circumcising your eyelashes. And for the 8th day you cut the kids' eyelashes, and that's it. Why is it that they all do that? How do we know this stuff? It must be. It's in the oral law. You have anybody here know what totafot are? Totafot. Very good question. Yeah. Totafot it says over there in Deuteronomy, chapter 6, verse 8. We say it every day for a Shema. It should be for tefillin, right? It's tefillin.
I'm used to whatever. Different pronunciation, like what is that?
Totafos, yeah. It's very, yeah, whatever, let's not get into it. Okay, what's interesting is that this word doesn't appear anywhere else in the Torah. How do we know totafot means what it means? How do we know that? There must be some sort of oral tradition, something very interesting. All tefillin are all the same. No matter where you go, they're all exactly the same. How do we know? How do we know that tefillin are only meant to be worn in the day, for example? How do we know that it's supposed to be on your hand, on your arm? Well, that we know. That's actually an easier one to say. How do we know that it's men and not women? I'm sorry for the people off the wall, the women off the wall, the woman on the wall. What is it? The woman of the wall, whatever it is, the woman that wears tefillin, right? Or off the wall, right? They go, how do you know that tefillin is really meant just for men and not for women? Now, granted, I know, okay, fine, you get Rashi's daughter as a word, okay, fine, different scenario, different generation, not for now. I guarantee you, the pictures that I've seen of the women that wear tefillin are not allowed to wear tefillin, just by the way that they're dressed. You realize that you have to be, and this is something actually very important. If you have, let's say, some people have a Kabbalistic blessing for the house, and it says God's name on it, you're not allowed to get undressed in front of that. You're not allowed to walk on not modest, in front of it. If you have Sfarim in the house, you're not allowed to walk around, not modest in there. Yeah.
What if you have some bedrooms? I don't have personally have. I know some bedrooms that have Sfarim inside of
They have to have it double covered. You can't have it open. You're not allowed to get undressed.
In pajamas in front of Sfarim?
Pajamas, as long as you're tznius, then yeah, as long as you're covered. You can't change into pajamas in front of that. Not men, not women. Not allowed to change in front of Sfarim. And this is where people get confused. Like for example, I have Sfarim in my, near my nightstand. I have a bunch of Sfarim that are usually piled up there. But I have everything always covered. Usually it should be better. It should be double covered, because if people get changed in the, in the bedroom, you can't have it like that. You're not allowed to, and people, I had a woman that once brought me, I don't know, like 8 pages of like posters of stuff that are heavy Kabbalistic stuff, like heavy Kabbalistic stuff. And I'm like, where do you put this? I'm like, all over my house. And I know that she wasn't dressing modest. Why? Because she came into the synagogue not dressed modest. So I'm like, don't put it in your house. It's not going to be good for you. She wasn't religious. I'm like, it's going to be worse for you than beneficial for you to put this in your house, because you're going to cause problems to yourself. You can't be immodest in front of these books. She has Kabbalistic books that she bought from some fake Kabbalist. They gave it to her and sold it for a ton of money. I'm like, get rid of it. Get rid of it. Hide it. Sell it. Give it to somebody else. You want to keep it? That's something else. But you got to dress 100% modest.
What if she has Sfarim in her house? Less of a thing, or is it more important?
No, it doesn't matter. Sfarim, you have to be modest in front of them. You can't change. Kabbalistic, the reason why is it was posters. It has actually God's name printed on it.
Sfarim are like clothes.
So even though Sfarim is clothes, they still have to be. Here's a very important thing. Yeah, if you have Sfarim, what if you have a baby and you want to change a diaper, and it's in the it's in the big living room, and there's Sfarim over there. You should change the baby away from the from the Sfarim. You have to be very, very careful on these things. It actually it could cause problems. Yeah. So okay. So anyways, how do we know? So you have these women of the wall. Who said that a woman's supposed to wear it? Maybe a man. How do you know when it's feeling in the Torah? It doesn't say just for men and not for women. It doesn't say all these things. How do we know all these laws? Rather, there must be some sort of oral tradition, oral law. Says the Rambam, says that every commandment, it was brought and was given by God to Moshe, was given with an explanation. For example, sukkah. It says that you have to go and live in a sukkah. Right? Not only does it say that, it says how long you have to do it, for how many days, how high the sukkah has to be, what type of material the walls could be, what type of material the schach, the roof has to be, who has to sit in it. It's a man and not the woman. Now, someone who's sick it doesn't have to. Somebody who's traveling doesn't have to. Has all the laws and all the criteria were given to Moshe Rabbeinu when he got the Torah. It wasn't just here it is and that's it and go and go figure it out. All the laws were brought together and brought into it. Granted, we will speak about that there are 13, shosh esay midos shatar and dash behem, which we'll speak about in a different, where we have laws that are derived. But in generally, the laws of the Torah was brought in with the explanation. It tells you the law and tells you how to actually go and how to follow it. Etrog. How do we know it's an etrog? It says in Vayikra, in Leviticus, chapter 23, verse 40. It says that you have to lekachten lechem biyom harishon pri etz hadar. A pre-eitz hadar. Hadar generally means a beautiful fruit from a tree. How do we know it's an esrog, a citron? How do we know that? Maybe it's something else. Maybe it's whatever you think is beautiful. So somebody will say a banana is the most beautiful thing, so he'll go with a banana and a lulav and hatasim and the aravot, he'll go with it and a banana. And this guy says, no, it's a pomegranate. And he takes a pomegranate and he goes, and this guy goes, no, it's a peach. This guy will go, no, he's a Yemenite, he's going to go with a watermelon, right? He's going to go with a watermelon, he's going to hold the watermelon together with it, and he says, no, this is the beautiful thing. How do we know it's an etrog? Where do we know it's from etrog? In fact, If you go to any Messianic, Christian, doesn't matter, anybody that does a lulav and a etrog on Sukkot always uses an etrog. Maybe it's a lemon. Very similar. How do we know that it's an etrog? It doesn't say anywhere in the written Torah about that it is a citron. It says pli etz hada. How do we know that? Must be that there is an oral law, there is something else that had to come with it in order to explain it. It says in Vayikra, Leviticus, chapter 26, verse 46. It says, Eilu hachukim v'hamishpatim v'hatorot. These are the statutes and the ordinances. And the torahs. Torahs pure plural. V'hatorot. Asher nasan Hashem beno uven bnei Yisrael. That God gave between him and the Jewish people. B'har Sinai b'yad Moshe. It says over here, and I'll read it again. Elu hachukim v'mishpatim v'hatorot. Torah is plural. What's plural? What's two? The two. It says over here two, which means more than two. Says the Sefra in Parashat Bechukotai. This teaches that there was two Torahs given, one that was written and one that was oral. But maybe the New Testament believers say, you see over here, new Torah, two Torahs. You know what it is? The New Testament and the Old Testament. Maybe that's what it really means. But to answer that, you just continue with the same verse. It says what? That God gave to Moshe and Har Sinai. Did God give the New Testament to Moshe and Har Sinai? No. How do we know that? Well, I don't even have to ask that question. We just know that. It's just obvious. It's just like, the encyclopedia, was not written, 4,000 years ago. It was written recently. It's just a very, very obvious. In fact, the New Testament contradicts the Old Testament, which means that they couldn't have been given at the same, period of time. So you have over here that people say, I see over here two Torahs, one in the New Testament, one in the Old Testament. These are people that are manipulating the words and changing it to fit their requirements, whatever they want. Rather, this means that it has to be that there were two things that were given by God to Moshe on Har Sinai. By Har Sinai, which means that there was an oral law and there was a written law given together with it. The oral law, you think of it is notes to the written law. Imagine you're in college. Anybody here in school? Oh, wow. Anybody here not in school? Case in point. Okay, so there's about 12, 15 people that are just not sure if they're in school or they're not in school. So, what? That means not in school. So I love doing that because whenever I ask those questions, you always have the majority of people don't raise their hands because no one wants to be wrong, which I hear that. That's fine.
There's no right or wrong.
What?
There's no wrong.
There's no. All right, let's try this one more time.
You're on the wrong side where he's getting to.
Who here is in school? And who here is currently in school?
Like summer?
Who here is no longer in school? Okay, not bad. All right, not bad. All right, you got majority. All right, so when you have been in school, let's say you missed a day. You go to your friend and be like, can I borrow your notes? Right? And you look at those notes. Generally, can you understand those notes?
No.
Most likely, first of all, I don't know, I'm assuming if you're dealing with you have like hearts and stars. Mr. and Mrs. I don't know, like some wealthy guy, like last name. People are like, well, yeah, that does, sound like a ring to it. You have like a nice picture of a diamond, 17 carats, right next to the 1 carat diamond, just carats, or just pictured over there. And so yeah, a nice dress, and then you have spring wedding would be good, So when you look at the notes, you're like, how do you understand this? It says over here something, and you have no clue what it means. And then it says and then they skip like 7 lines. Yeah, why do people do that? They're writing a note, and then they skip like 4 lines to the bottom and write something else, and then they turn over and they continue writing it as if they're going to go back and really write anything in that space, right? So you go over there, you don't understand it. The notes you have to go and you have to say, okay, can you explain this to me? When they sit together with them, be like, okay, this is what the teacher said, this is what the professor said, so on and so forth. Imagine you go you want to hire a lawyer, the best lawyer, and the guy tells you, this guy, he graduated from Harvard, this guy is unbelievable, the best lawyer, and you go and you meet with this lawyer, and the lawyer says, you go to the lawyer and says, I'm really impressed, you went to Harvard, and the lawyer's like, well, I studied the books that they give in Harvard. They're like, well, what do you mean? Be like, well, my wife went to Harvard. I'm a genius, so photogenic memory. I memorized all her books, right? So, technically, I practically went to Harvard. I know everything. Would you take that lawyer? You should not take that lawyer. You should go to the guy that went to Brooklyn College. Nothing against Brooklyn College, probably on very, very close level for Brooklyn law and Harvard law, fairly close. We don't want to go and to, hurt anybody's feelings. But you rather take somebody that actually went to law school, passed the bar, and actually is practicing as a lawyer, legitimately. you wouldn't take somebody that just based off just the information. Let's say you go to a doctor, right? And the doctor, I don't know, he went to the best medical school, in the world. And probably in England somewhere, right? So, because they're brighter because they speak very intelligent. Right? And they have dentistry is becoming very popular over there because the English are now fixing their teeth. So you see, not everybody gets my jokes. All right, okay, good. So my humor is very odd. I don't know if you figured that yet. Very odd humor. All right, so because most of the joke is in my head. So if you're in my head, you understand it. If you're not, I'm sorry. So in the old. Yeah. Yeah. I'm like thinking. I'm like almost going into a routine about the pubs in England. A pint of beer. Okay, fine. Let's move on. We've already spoke about goldfish. We don't speak about English teeth. Okay, nothing against the English teeth. Some of my best friends are English. Speaking, but I have also friends in England. No, I'm kidding. I have some very, very good friends from England, and I have to be. When I was in yeshiva in Israel, one of my closest group of friends were actually English speaking, which is ridiculous. The first time that you speak to them, you don't understand what they're talking about because they speak English, but the words are different. They're very, 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 very different. I can't even say this on camera, but how do you say a cigarette in England? Does anybody know how to say cigarette in England? All right, I'm not going to say. A torch is a I know a torch is a flashlight. You know that? If you have somebody from England and says, "Do you want a torch?" Don't get excited. And be like, you have a torch? Like, how is that even legal? Yeah, of course we have a torch. How are we supposed to see it in the night? I'm like, can I see your torch? I'm thinking they have this big wooden log, over here, and they light it up, and they'll be like, Herbert, are you there? Nobody's ringing the bell. You think of it, but a torch is a flashlight over there, And there's so many words. It took me a while to actually, catch on. Especially if you get people from Manchester, they get the heavy English accent. You feel like almost you understand a different language. Be like, whoa, I understand you. And yeah, of course you on what? Be like, whoa, you think I speak fast, right? So, I have a very, very close Australian friend, right? I don't know, yeah. I have a very close Australian friend, right? And it's something very, very interesting when you go. That's a very interesting. So you see, English sounds smart. Yeah, Australian sound fun. Americans sound dumb. Listen, that's just the way it. I'll agree. Americans. Come on, you're going to be sitting somebody and be like, yeah, well, you go to a mechanic, be like, well, listen, you're going to have to change, your thermostat inside over there. You have a radiator going on over there. It's going to cost you, I don't know, $1,000. And be like, then you start, are you sure? But then imagine you have a guy be like, well, let me tell you something. You've got here something over here that, it's not working. You got a radiator over here that's completely bashed up. It's completely rocking. It's not even working everywhere. Don't worry about it. I ordered a new one from England. Don't worry about it. I got the best. We got the best going on. And you go over there and you be like, well, yeah, how much do I owe you? £1,500? Sure. Of course, they sound smarter. I don't know why. Maybe because they're foreign. I don't know. But Australian, they sound fun. Hey mate, you want to come put your head in a crocodile? I'd be like, now I do. Yes, I really want to put my head in a crocodile. There's a reason why that. What was the guy's name? Crocodile Dundee. Crocodile Dundee, right? Yeah, Crocodile Dundee. This guy, you have an American guy saying, okay, we're going to get really close to this vicious, python. We're going to let him wrap around a little bit. This boa constrictor, he's just going to give me a hug. And be like, you are crazy. You need to be in an institution. But if you have a guy be like, all right, guys, you want to come in an adventure? All right, follow me. All right, I'm going to get a hug from this boa constrictor. It's going to be so lovely. And be like, I want a hug from a boa constrictor too, Watch me put my head in this crocodile. He is not going to bite because we love each other. Be like, I love a crocodile too. It's just a different vibe that you get. from it. What is wrong with you guys today? Like, why can't you stay on topic? Like, don't you want to go home tonight? Like, I don't understand. Like, a bad influence on me. All right. Let's say you're going to go on an airplane, right? You're going to go on an airplane. You have two options. You could go with the guy who he is the head engineer in Boeing, right? Boeing is an airplane manufacturer, right? He is the guy he builds airplanes. Never flew once in his life. Then you have another possible, pilot. This guy flew 4,000 hours, but I'm saying like this guy just barely passed his flight. He was getting over through it, huge problems in his life, alcohol, whatever it is. He had problems. He just like a C-, whatever is passing, right? In flight school. He just passed it. He started off with the the airplane that you have to actually run and give a push to the propeller, and then he runs onto the plane, puts on his goggles and his scarf that's flying, and like that airplane. And then but he has 4,000, hours of flight. You have two options to have your pilot. You have this guy, Inspector Gadget over here, or you have the guy who is the brilliant, Edgar guy who went and built the airplanes, but never flew it once. Who do you pick? The guy that flew it, even though the guy built it, he knows the buttons, right? Have you ever seen a cockpit? You'd be like, what is going on over here? How do you even know? They're like, oh, we just press one. It's like autopilot. We just, we don't have to do anything anymore. But you would pick the guy that actually experienced, that went through it. Imagine the difference. And why am I telling you all these things? I don't know where I got with Australia and England. Forget about that. That's irrelevant to, well, maybe not. You know why? Because the way that you say things makes a difference. The way that you learn Torah also makes a difference. The way that you actually go and you verbalize things makes a complete difference. You have people that learn Torah with excitement, they understand it. Right? You learn Torah with an Australian, it's fun. Right? You learn Torah with an Englishman, you feel like you're a professor. You learn Torah with an American, you'll be like, I don't think you know what you're talking about. Right? So, it depends who's your rabbi, right? Maybe you should get Australian rabbis, I don't know. Right? But again, Israeli rabbis, that's how you know it's legit. Let's say you know it's legit. If an Israeli rabbi is teaching you something, you have to listen because everything he's saying is perfect. Everything is exactly from the Holy Land. You must be true. It must be 100% accurate. Okay, so
You went to France.
I went to France. I did go to France, and you know what? In my mind, I'm like, let's go French right now, right? I'm not going there. Okay. All right.
We covered a lot of languages.
We have. Yeah. So Bulgarians, right? No, I'm kidding. Okay. So all right. So now when you're dealing with the Torah, you have two ways to learn it. Imagine the Torah was written as an encyclopedia. It's books on a shelf. You take it down, you read it, and that's it. You wouldn't have any connection to it. The Torah had to be written orally. There had to be it's a very, very important that it was written orally, and now we're going to explain why it had to be written orally. If you would have just gone and just studied from the books, first of all, everybody would understand it differently. This person will take it a different way, this person will take it a different way. If it's oral, it has to be brought down from rabbi to student, rabbi to student, rabbi to student for generations to come, meaning that the student is going to be learning from the rabbi. He's going to know how to learn. He's going to need to learn how to learn. The rabbi is going to direct him. What if you have any questions? What do you have any problems? What do you have anything? And it's the same idea of imagine someone's going to medical school without actually going to medical school, just studying the books. Somebody that's learning how to fly a plane, but just learning the books. You don't want that. You want someone that built through the experience. That's the rabbi to student relationship. That's the rabbi in order to know know for sure that the Torah that we have today is what we got from the time of Har Sinai. Is the only way is to have it oral. Because if it was only written, it would have been lost. It would have miscommunicated. What happens when the Jews got sent out to exile, or all the books were burnt? We knew by heart. We didn't need this. We didn't need it. You have even the written law, but even the oral law is written in shorthand. Rabbi Victor Miller says, you open up a Gemara. You shouldn't because you're a woman. But let's say somebody opens up a Gemara. Oh, why should a woman learn Gemara? Okay, you know what? Let's not get into that. We went through enough off-topic things that right now. If you go and you open up a Gemara, you have over there, it says, Amar Rava. Rava says 1.5 line, which means Darash Rava. Rava went, biggest rabbi, 2,000 years ago. Gets up, 1,500 years ago, 1,400 years ago, 1,300 years ago, if you want to be accurate, right? Gets up and he wants to says a whole lecture. Only 1.5. You think he's going to get up there and he's going to say 1.5 lines and be like, Chazak, get everybody, like, and that's it, it's finished? No, of course, it's going to be like an hour, 2-3 hours long lecture, but the Torah just writes it in 1 hour. The oral law, because it condenses it. If the oral law in itself is not all, there's so much more to it that's all oral. If you wanted to actually learn Torah, there is no way to learn it by yourself. You have to have a connection with a rabbi. You have to have it, you have to go, and I still speak to my rabbis. One of my rabbis told me I shouldn't speak about certain topics. And that's why I haven't been speaking about it. I have topics that were already prepared for a very long time and I haven't spoken about it. Why? Because my rabbi said not to speak about it yet. You have to, if you go to a rabbi and you ask him, who is your rabbi? And he says, no, don't worry, I don't need a rabbi. Run away from him. Run away very fast, because if there's a rabbi that doesn't have a rabbi, that's not good news. Everybody needs a rabbi, no matter how great you are. The rabbi might not be alive, you may be the greatest rabbi in the world, okay, fine. But at one point in time, you have to have a rabbi in your life. If you don't, then it's a very, very big problem. The only way to grow in Judaism, and only way to grow in anything, is only if you have a personal relationship and tell you, okay, here's the laws. The rabbi tells the student, here's the laws, here's the halakha. But now forget about that. What about your character trait? I saw you that you're angry. I saw that you're screaming. I saw that you were doing this. I saw that you're doing that. The rabbis tell you a lot more. A lot of rabbis are able to tell you how to become a better person. It's not just all about the laws. If you think that the Torah is only laws, you have been greatly mistaken. To such an extent that when you think about it, if you actually look at the Torah, the majority of it is not actually the laws. We extrapolate, 613 commandments. You look at Bereshit, how much laws is in actually Bereshit? You look at Sefer HaMitzvot, all the commandments. You don't have, it's spread out the entire thing, but there's so much more to it than just the commandments. Another reason why the Torah, the oral law had to be oral, is that it would have been stolen by everybody else. Look at it now. The written Torah was taken by so many like Christians, Islams. They've been taking it. Imagine if we had the oral law written down back then. They would have taken everything. You would have not been able to tell what's the difference between real Judaism, fake Judaism, Christianity, or or Islam. You wouldn't be able to tell because they would have taken everything. They already would have taken it. In order to ensure the continuity of the Jewish nation, it had to be kept oral. Now we see something very interesting, and this is my own theory. Why all of a sudden Messianic Judaism came about fairly recently? Because now the oral laws became more accessible to the public. You could read the Gemara online. You could, everything's in English. Beforehand, they didn't know about all this stuff. All of a sudden, they're incorporating all these things because now it's becoming more accessible. Then the question is, but why is it more accessible? The answer is because unfortunately we need it. You need to have Gemara that's written in English, otherwise people are not going to be able to learn it. The majority of people are not going to be able to go and sit and learn all the Gemara. You have people learning in Yeshiva that they are able to do it, and everybody should strive to go and learn, to be able to learn Hebrew, learn Lashon HaKodesh, learn Aramaic, without the translation. But a lot of people that are sitting and working, they're not going to be able to do that. Or even if they weren't able to continue that. So we need it nowadays. So we need it for the Jewish nation, but back then, we didn't have that, because you didn't need it, because it kept the Jewish identity as a Jewish identity. No one was able to go, and no one was able to take it. There's a Gemara in Eruvin, and we're almost done. There's a Gemara in Eruvin, page 54b, that says like this: a person is obligated to teach his student 4 times. So if you go to a class and the rabbi keeps on repeating his thing, don't think, okay, I know this stuff already. I've had people, like I say, okay, come to this class. What are you speaking about? Or what is it? Oh, he's speaking about this topic. Oh, no, I know this topic already. Oh, really? Okay, I have a question. And I asked him one simple question about it. Oh, I don't know. Like, you don't know the topic. You know probably the jokes and the stories around the topic, but you don't actually know the topic. You're supposed to review everything 4 times, minimum 4 times. In order to understand something, you have to review it 4 times. Before I prepare a class, usually you're talking about it not even well more than 4 times, because you can't. By the way, one of the things for public speaking, you can't go in public speaking and go and look at your notes the whole time. You have to use the notes as a guide. You should have it so you know the sources for everything. But to use it solely for that, you can't. You have to know. You have to go and you have to learn it a few times, so you memorize it, so you learn it, so you'll be able to understand it. You'll be able to explain it clearly. The Gemara goes on and says, Rabbi, and how do we know we have to learn it 4 times? Because Aaron learned it 4 times also. And if Aaron learned it from Moshe Rabbeinu, had to learn it 4 times, so too us, the ordinary people, also have to learn it 4 times. Rabbi Kiva says that a teacher must continue to repeat the stuff until the student has mastered it. That's how it was. You have rabbis nowadays. There's one big rabbi that he made a big siyum. How do you say siyum? Anybody know how to say siyum in English? A party, like a what? Celebration of a finish. Let's say you finish a book, you make a celebration. So that's it doesn't sound good, right? Celebrating because I finished a book. You have a get together. I have a little party that you finished a book. Now I'm not talking about you finished Harry Potter season 1, whatever it is. Like, okay guys, yes I know Harry and Harry and Ron, they're best friends and they live happily ever after. It's not like that's not what a siyum is. Siyum is you learn a Gemara, you learn something, you learn Mishnah, you learn something, and you go and you finish something, you accomplish something, you make a celebration because you should feel good about it. You finish something. There was a rabbi who went and he made a very, very big celebration. What was the celebration? He said he finished the Talmud twice. Talmud is, you're talking about over 2,700 pages. It takes a long time. If you want to learn one page very, very quick by somebody teaching it to you, it takes you about an hour. And that's a very, very brief overview. Forget about actually going in depth. Forget about learning by yourself. And forget about actually understanding it. So he said he learned it twice. And one of the students says, Rabbi, I know for a fact I've been to more than 2 of your Siyum Shas. You finished the entire Shas. What are you talking about? You finished it twice. So Rabbi says, it says that a person's supposed to learn something 101 times. So I finished it twice, which means he finished it 202 times. So you have, there are rabbis that finish these things every single year. You're talking about 270 pages that finish it every 2,700 pages plus 63 trinkets that they finish every single year, and they know it like this. There are people that they're able to go and they're able to point in the Gemara and tell you. So let's say you have over there it says Amar in this page. He'll say on the other side it says Aki, and he'll be able to say where that finger is on the next page, which means it's not there. It says Akiva on the next page on the same point. And you go into the next page, I'll tell you what it says, and so on and so forth. They know everything by heart because this is what they breathe, this is what they learn, this is how you learn Torah. There was once, I heard this from, I think, Rabbi David Gottlieb, if I'm not mistaken, that I think it was a story with Rabbi Moshe Feinstein, a giant of Torah, lived in America. He had somebody that was arguing with him where a certain topic was in the Gemara. And the rabbi says it was over here, and the guy that came to him says, no, I was just learning it, it's in this place. And the rabbi says, no, it has to be over here. And they're going back and forth, till the rabbi says, let's go and check it up, it must be where I said it. And he takes it out, opens it up, and it's where he said it. So a student comes over to him afterwards. The students are always watching what the rabbis are doing. He says, I don't understand, Rabbi. He says, why are you so adamant about knowing exactly where the location is? What's the difference? Let him say that it was over there. So the rabbi says, I answer questions without looking inside. The only way that I would be able to do that is if I know exactly where every source is in the Torah. And if I found that I did not know the exact source, I would never again be able to go and answer questions without looking inside again. That's what this rabbi was saying. This is, you have these rabbis that are learning it day in and day out. Then you're dealing with rabbis that barely learned any Gemara. They come and tell you, is it okay to do this? They're like, yeah, of course, it's not a problem. Marry men and men. What's the big deal? You have rabbis you have rabbis and you have rabbis. And I guarantee you the people that are rabbis, those are the ones that they have rabbis. That was very confusing. That was like a ton of story. Okay, so it's getting so late. No one look at your clocks. It's not late. All right. All right, so there are some people, 5-10 minutes and we're done, right? My time, right? No, really 5-10 minutes. Okay, let's go fast. So some people say no, the Talmud is outdated. You're talking about in the olden days. The Torah, the oral law, the written law, it contains the secret of the universe. It contains everything that you want in there. In Tanit, in page 21b, it says over there something very interesting. It says that the intestines of pigs are very similar to that of humans. And there was this case in the Talmud that there was an infection, a plague of the pigs that killed a lot of pigs. The rabbis instituted a fast. And it was very weird. Why? We're not worried that people will eat pig because it's pork. It's not kosher. No one's going to eat pig. So why are they instituting a fast? In 1918, fast forward 1,500 years, after that, in 1918, there was an epidemic known as the Spanish flu. This killed more than 50 million people. In 1997, they found out what was the cause of it. What happened was it was a virus that passed from birds to pigs and then to humans. Which means is the rabbis knew there was some sort of connection between pigs and humans. And they said already, since then there was, there's something that happened, we need to fast. We need to, because everything in the physical world has a representation in the spiritual world. If there's something over here, we need to go and we need to fast because it's very similarity. They went and they fast for it. Dr. Louis Pasteur, he discovered antibodies, vaccination, immunizations. There are many people that they fight for it. Immunizations, what causes cancer, what causes all these things. I'm not going to get into that now, but he was the one who discovered these things. There is a sefer called Mavo She'arim that was written in his generation that says that they heard from his friend that where did he get this information from? He got this information from the Gemara. The Gemara was translated into French. And he went and he was able to go and he read it. And there's a Gemara over there that says about vaccination for rabies, that you take from the from the dog and you insert it into the person. That is that helps heal that. And he started thinking about that. He got into that, and then eventually he got into and he came out with the vaccinations. You have also Rabbi Elazar, the first ever liposuction in history, documented liposuction in history. Fat removal was Rabbi Elazar in the time of the Gemara. Even before the Gemara, there's a Gemara in Baba Mitzvah, page 83b, that Rabbi Elazar was the son of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. He was a very heavy-set man. He underwent surgery, and it's something very interesting. It says that they put him to sleep. They put him to sleep on a marble counter. Why on a marble counter? Marble is very good for to remove any bacteria. You could keep it, very, very sterile, very, very simply. They put him on a marble room, and they put him to sleep, and they removed fat from him. And they took out buckets of fat and they put it out over there. And this is the first, and you have over here of the rabbis. The rabbis already 1500, 1600, 1700 years ago already had information that only science is coming up with right now. That only the science is going through now. We'll finish off with this thought. Let's do a quick recap before we finish off. We proved today, and it should be very, very, this was a very, very simple class to understand. We proved today that there must be an oral law. It is impossible that there cannot be a oral law. Hey, you could say that maybe the rabbis made it up. We'll deal with that in the future classes. But to say that there's no such thing as an oral law, it's impossible because we cannot understand it. We spoke about vowelization. We spoke about the fact that it's impossible to understand the Torah without having any background information to it. Which means there must be some sort of an addition. Think about it, the notes to the lecture. There has to be there has to be a lecture that was associated with those notes because we don't understand it without it. Commentary, perfect. Yeah, as a commentary. Think of the oral law as a commentary onto, which is not great translation, but let's use that as a commentary to the written law. It explains it in order to understand. You're not going to be able to understand it without it. Says the Rambam in Hilchot Shuvah, chapter 3, that there are certain individuals that have no share in the world to come. Then not only they don't have any share in the world to come, they get cut off and they're judged forever. What are these? Of this group, there are three that do not have any share in the world to come. Those are the people that deny the Torah. Which means is that if you say that the Torah is false, it's fake, you have no share in the world to come. Which means that even if you have questions about it, ask the questions. But don't just disregard it, because that is going to ruin you for eternity. If you go and you say there's no such thing as the oral law, there's no such thing as written law, that's all made up, you are losing eternity. You're playing with fire over here. There are three individuals, says the Rambam, that loses their share in the world to come. They get up there, they get cut off. There's nothing to talk about. Number one, somebody who says that even one word of the Torah is not from God. Even one word of the Torah says it's not from God, Moshe made this up, has no share in the world to come. Nothing. Dies, there's nothing. That's it, the end. Number two, somebody who denies the oral law. And this is unfortunately very common. People that deny the oral law, think you'd be a good person, think you keep the written law. Granted, you'll get rewarded for everything that you do, but you have no share in the world to come if you do not believe in the oral law. It is not only, it's vital to Judaism, it's impossible to understand it, but even if you don't think that way, if you don't believe in this, that's it. You have no share in the world to come. And the last one is somebody who nullifies the Torah. So for example, Christians or Arabs that say that this is the Torah, but God came a second one, and the Torah is not anymore applicable, no share in the world to come. That's it. It's finished. It's gone. It's finito. This is not, people go and people claim, whatever, okay, fine. The rabbis made it up, but I'll still be a good Jew. Okay, fine. Be a good person as much as you want, as much as you could. You have no share in the world to come. You're talking about serious consequences we're dealing with over here. Again, if somebody doesn't believe even one word from the Torah, no share in the world to come. Somebody doesn't believe in the oral law, no share in the world to come. And somebody who says that the law was replaced with a different law, no share in the world to come. This is playing with fire. This you don't want to mess around with. Any questions? Yes.
So basically, the written Torah is the actual. I'm confused. Which part is the written Torah? Which part is
24 books of Tanakh is written Torah.
No, I'm talking about like Moshe,
5 books of Moses.
Hashem gave to Moshe the written Torah.
Yeah.
And the oral Torah came after.
The oral Torah came after we didn't have any more prophecy anymore. The written Torah we had from when we had prophecy, because all those are written prophetically, Ruach HaKodesh, however you want to explain it. Maybe we'll give a class on that at one point in time. But the oral law was after we didn't have, the prophecy was no longer.
The oral Torah was already from rabbis.
Yes.
And then the rabbis know what to write.
Because their rabbis told them, and their rabbis told them back to Moshe Rabbeinu.
It was given to Moshe on Har Sinai.
Yes, the oral law was given to Moshe at Har Sinai.
Moshe got both.
Yes, he got both. Correct. He got the oral law and the written law, and we only recently started. B'ezrat Hashem, I don't know if I'm going to do next week, if I'll do a Tisha B'Av class or if I'll do a class. If not, we're going to do the history of the oral law. Well, history of Kabbalah, history of that, very interesting. But if you're interested in history and stuff like that, it's a very interesting class. I like it. So that's what we'll speak about and how things came about and how it came into thing. Any other questions? Yeah.
Basically, everything that we do, everything that we think, and it's like the way we follow our lives is based on the Torah, right?
Correct.
So I don't know how to explain this, but isn't it a little bit? I kind of feel like we're almost. I don't know how to explain this. The only way I explain is that someone I work with once she asked me a question if I believe that aliens exist, or for example, or she asked me a question if you have if you would steal in order to feed your starving children. And the only way you could really answer the question if you knew the halacha for the answers, right? But isn't it in a way it's not my own opinion? Everything I do is based on whether or not it's right by the Torah?
Are you asking on free will?
Not really. You're more like...
I'm not following the question.
I'm going to ask a question.
You're...
That is free will, it is.
What?
It's kind of free will. I guess it's everything I do has to be by the Torah. So it's I don't want to say I don't get my own opinion.
Well, you have the choice to listen to the Torah or not to listen to the Torah.
Doesn't somebody have to just to be independent, maybe?
No, so for example, let's say the whole I'm gonna go there, the whole gay thing, right?
Okay.
So I'm just gonna go with it.
Go for it.
So for example, personally, I don't see anything wrong with it, besides for the fact that the Torah says it's not allowed. That's what I'm saying. So it's not.
It says straight out in the Torah.
Yeah, 100%.
We understand why. No, we understand why. We understand why it's first of all, it's abomination. You can't the world cannot continue like that.
Right.
So there's many
That's all again based on the Torah, but it's not like if I saw someone doing it, if I saw it's not has
I'll tell you.
my life, so I don't care. You do you.
I'll tell you why. I have to give a class about this one time. I have to give the whole thing. You should know. Last time I spoke about it, I had to cut it out.
Oh, you cut it out?
I cut it out from the class for certain reasons. Yep. I uploaded. I don't know if anybody heard that. I gave a whole a half hour. We spoke about homosexuality, and I cut it out. More than that, I cut out the whole thing for a particular reason. There's some things, and nothing that I said there I take back, but there were certain things that I have to give a fresh class on it because certain things I should say out loud in public, and certain things I should not say out loud in public. But homosexuality, the reason why people they don't so much, have a problem with it nowadays is only because of the media.
Right. I'm not saying that homosexuality I'm just using it as an example, but in general, are we allowed to do this? Hold on, let me check the Torah. What about whether or not? I'm not explaining this. It just sounds wrong. I don't know how to explain it.
Can't help you there.
No, we're like what's it called?
It's we kind of I guess
Puppets.
Yeah, we are.
Well, you have the free will. You don't have to listen to the Torah. You could listen to the Torah. Well, if you're smart, then you do. Do you have to listen to the laws of the land? If you want to, can you sell drugs to children?
Yeah.
You could. So you kind of got to listen to it because otherwise you're going to get punished for it. That's the way rules work. That's the way laws work. If you get married, do you have to abide by the rules of marriage? You don't have to. If you want to stay married. Yeah, it's the same thing. You go with society, rules of society, rules of relationship, rules of the Torah. Everything works the same exact way. That's the way rules are. You can listen to it. You don't have to listen to it.
I don't know, maybe the point is I feel like it's a little bit. I don't want to say brainwashing, but a little bit not brainwashed. It's not. I know.
No. It is. Everything. But then again, everything is brainwashing. Everything is brainwashing. I gave a whole class in brainwash. Oh, I didn't upload it. I should give a class in brainwashing. I'll teach you how to brainwash.
It's I can't really make a decision unless I know whether or not it's allowed by the Torah. So it's a little bit
Can you make a decision if you know if it's illegal or not legal?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
No, I'm talking about American law. I could tell you that on anything. You could do something that's just illegal. If you care as being a good, upright citizen, then you're not going to do something illegal. And if you don't care, then you won't. If you're a good Jew, then you'll do something that is according to the Torah. If you don't care, then you won't do it. The same rules go the same way. You're in prison. You want to follow. Well, not you, chas v'shalom. Somebody's in prison. They're going to follow the rules of the prison because they don't want to get put in the hole or whatever it's called. It's you want to follow the rules because you want to. or you're forced to, but you're going to follow it. Do you have the free will not to follow it? Yeah, you can do whatever you want.
I think the same is with opinions. Like, you either give your own opinions or the same.
Any other questions? Yeah.
If the punishment for doing Moachan Shabbos is death, then even if, for example, when you did, even if it was to set like Hashem's law.
A different topic in itself in its entirety. A whole long topic in itself.
Oh, we're going off this?
Yeah. There's it's a long topic in itself. What was it, last week's parsha? Was it 2 weeks parsha? A different topic in itself. Wait, too long. The bottom line is he shouldn't have done what he done.
Right.
But because he got punished for it, otherwise he wouldn't. Like you could again. There's people that do bad things for good purposes. That's why it says the road to Gehenna is paved with good intentions.
I have a backup to my thing.
Okay.
The reason I'm just thinking that is because that coworker that I have, like whatever, she said one of the reasons that she doesn't believe or whatever is because she said she doesn't want to follow her life the way someone else said it should be. Like,
is this the same one that I'm supposed to have an argument with? Oh, come on. We would have such a great time. First of all, she is living her life the way that other people are. Is she paying taxes? Does she, follow traffic rules? She's living in the box, Come on, live outside the box, Just drive as you feel free. Just do whatever you want. She's living in the other box. She doesn't want to, not because, she's saying she doesn't want to follow the Torah because it's living someone else's life. She's living someone else's life.
I'm gonna do what's right because I think it's right and not because the Torah told me it was right.
Okay, so let's say I'll ask her. Then you could ask her like this: if let's say you think something is according to the legal system wherever you're living, it tells you not to do something, but you think it's right, would you go and violate it? Let's say the punishment is 20 years in prison. Oh no, yeah, I'll do what's right because I don't think that's right. I don't care. You're living in this land. You better keep the rules, or you're going to get thrown in prison for 20 years. So it depends what you think about it. Any way that you look at it, it's you have to follow the rules, whether you like it or not. See the liberal mindset. Brain it's going to be so much fun. Trust me.
It's so hard.
It's
She has these
excuses.
Yeah.
Nothing else other than excuses.
She's comfortable. She's like, I am where I am.
You should know people that are not interested in finding out. It's not because they researched everything they know. It's because they don't want to. Yeah. Then if she says that she'll feel comfortable coming in here. You know what? Let's do like this. She make a lot of money in your work? No? I'm sorry. I'll pay her. Yeah, I'll pay her to come. Yeah. This is not for anybody else in the virtual world.
I think you really think she wouldn't.
Well, we'll settle on an amount and we'll pay her to come. Make her worth her while. Yeah. Text her. So, all right. Coming next month. Okay. So
every week I'm just I slip it into the conversation.
Yeah.
We're working with kids. We have things to do,
Yeah.
but we just slip it in.
I'll pay her, but one condition. If I'm right, she has to admit it. She doesn't have to follow it, but she has to admit it.
Her excuse for not wanting to come is that she's already done all the research.
Okay, so now it's not going to be, it's for money. It's a business. How much you make per hour?
She makes...
Whatever it is, I'll double it. And she'll stay for an hour. All right? Okay. As long as she's not a lawyer or whatever, charging $700 an hour.
Especially if she has a degree. It's like
No, she doesn't.
All right.
She's managing. She's managing.
Any other questions? No? Okay, Chazak.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.